Welcome back to Game Time Gals. We've had a long hiatus, but we're excited to have Larra here with us today. Larra, why don't you start with what you're doing with the Colts right now?
Yeah. I am excited to be with you gals. Thanks so much for having me. So my title is Executive Producer of Colts Productions, also host and reporter. So it entails a lot of different things across Colts platforms. With the Executive Producer title, I help oversee all of our Colts original programming content. So a lot of our original series that we have in-house, things like Behind the Colts, With the Next Pick, Director's Cut, our Declassified series. So a lot of those almost docuseries style elements that we have built within Colts Productions. And then I also am the host of our show Colts 360. I appear on our podcast weekly, the official Colts podcast, and I am the sideline reporter for our Colts radio broadcasts during this season.
Lots.
She's
Lots
busy.
of stuff.
She's busy.
She's busy.
What's been your favorite production that you've done?
There are a ton of them, and I really love the longer form storytelling and longer form sports features of sorts. So a few of the ones that we have had the opportunity to do with the Colts a couple years ago, we did one that was focused on the Chuck Strong game, which was this huge comeback against the Green Bay Packers at Lucas Oil Stadium shortly after then head coach Chuck Pagano was diagnosed with leukemia, and they rallied for Coach Pagano, and we sat down with Coach Pagano and Bruce Arians, who was the interim coach while Coach Pagano was in treatment. We had Reggie Wayne, and we flew out to Stanford to sit down with Andrew Luck. And it was Andrew's first sit-down interview since he'd retired. So that was a big moment for us in general. And it was incredible to hear him reflect on that time. And it was, to me, it was a game, but it was a story of so much more than just this single game. It was how that set this team on a mission for the entire season that was much more so just than winning games. It was winning for Chuck, and how much that inspired his battle and his fight, and now into remission and all of what he's done with IU Simon Cancer Center to help raise money for all of that. So that's one of them that I love. Last year, one of my colleagues, Matt Wilkening, and I flew down to Tampa to meet with Coach Dungy, and we did the whole story of the Monday night comeback against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was another one that we did. That one is a real signature win of Coach Dungy's career, and there was a ton of meaning behind that as well. So doing those type of stories have been so much fun. And I mean, I could go into, fortunately, dozens of them that we've been able to do because we do have such great support for those longer form feature stories. And now I feel like a lot of organizations don't put as much of a heavy priority on that. So we're really grateful that our franchise does. Obviously, a lot of things are more driven toward shorter social media type of content pieces, which we do a ton of that too. But I love that we have the balance of doing the longer form features alongside things like Behind the Colts and With the Next Pick. With the Next Pick is solely focused on the draft and really the entire, the off season of sorts leading up to the draft. And we expanded that this year. Behind the Colts is the next evolution, where we're doing more of the all-encompassing behind the scenes of the building in general, and more so the entire offseason process, aside from just the draft. Like last year, we did a big feature focused on head coach Shane Steichen because it was the 1-year anniversary of when he'd been hired. And to that point, not a whole lot of people knew much about Shane other than his life and passion as a football coach. So really tried to give people a different perspective about who Shane is as a father, as a husband, just as a person.
Yeah. Do you usually do most of those stories during season, or is it majority off season, or just all together whenever you can?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do as many as we can in the off season because that's normally where we have the most amount of resources to be able to dedicate to those. So we do try to do an off season series that is 3 to 4 different episodes with Behind the Colts. When we have an opportunity in season, we do try to do them. Actually, the Tony Dungy Tampa Bay comeback Monday Night Football story is one that we did in season because the anniversary was, of course, during the season. So we wanted to put that together when it was timely. We are working on a few right now that we are hoping to roll out in the next couple of weeks. Just kind of have to be opportunistic with being able to get those done because they are a heavier lift in which it takes maybe a few weeks of gathering the interviews and producing and editing. So it's a little heavier than some of the week-to-week game obligations and game content that we roll out. But we do have a few that we are working on right now. So I'll be sure to tweet out some updates as soon as we have them about some things to look forward to, hopefully in the month of October and the month of November.
Awesome. Yeah. Do you when you get these stories, does someone pitch them to you, or do you guys already kind of have them oh, we want to do something on this? How does that come to be hey, we want this covered?
It's a unique process. There is a lot of brainstorming. There is a huge whiteboard one of my colleagues has in his office, and he and I will come up with things. And I mean, we are always trying to think of things. And it might be, I might fire off a text message to him at 11:30 on a Thursday night sometimes, or it comes to you on a Saturday afternoon. And so he and I are always bantering back and forth on maybe different things that we need to follow up on or some things that we need to dig on. Also, we might just get an idea and it's hey, let's go talk to, sometimes it's a scout, sometimes it might be a coach, sometimes it might be a player. Let's see if there's anything to this. So they come from everywhere, and it's one of those things that when you work in sports, you gals know this, it's kind of hard to flip the switch off because you're always either seeing things that are coming into your feed or you're thinking about things or finding inspiration. So anytime that maybe a story comes to our attention, we immediately want to hey, think about this. Let's follow up on this. Let's see if there's anything there. And it's beneficial to come up with a ton of ideas because not every single one is going to be viable. Not every idea is going to want to come to fruition. So, you want to have 10, 12 ideas working at once because likely out of that, you might get 3 or 4 that you really are going to be able to pursue.
I was going to ask if you had any specific stories you look for, or is it just a general idea of oh, this would probably work? Because, you said you had to come up with maybe 12.
Right.
And they come out how often do they really actually come out when you come up with that idea? What's the process like?
Yeah, it's one of those things where what you look for is what can we do that's unique with this angle? Because a lot of them are reflective when we're doing some things like our declassified series, and then with the draft series, even the off-season content, it's a lot of things that are being covered, right? When you think about in that off-season series, combine, free agency, owners meetings, whatever that might be, what's unique? How are we covering something unique from what every other outlet is? How can we use our unique access internally within the building to tell a story with a different perspective? So those are maybe the checklist of things that we might go through and try to examine and look for. And then I would say there's not I couldn't correlate a direct success rate. What I would say is there are some stories that we have pitched and that have come together within a couple weeks. There are other stories that have taken years to bring together. So I would say, you kind of have this running list. Some, are going to be a little longer, process to get completed. And another example within our Behind the Colts series that we did this past year, one of the things that was pretty easily executable that came to fruition pretty quick. We spent a whole day touring Michael Pittman Jr.'s farm with him and his telling the story of being one of the top wide receivers in the league, but also being an active farmer. And he now is actually harvesting honey out of his farm there and doing all of these things and why this is so important to him, not only for the success of his football career, but why this is such an important part for his family and how it has given him Indiana roots despite being a California guy. And that's one that came together pretty quickly. Some of the others have, taken months and months to really put together. I would say it's a better than 50% success rate, though, sometimes when we pitch things of all of the different stories that we have done.
Yeah, that's interesting. You can go from his farm, which I've seen the pictures of it. It's huge. They have horses and everything there, which is really interesting. And you guys, a while ago, you did a story on Peyton Manning, right? Also,
We've done a lot of them. We have.
so it varies.
Yeah.
From
That's the thing. Yeah, there are a lot of the stories that we do might be, reflective and more historical. For example, like with the story that we did with Coach Dungy, or things that we may have done with Andrew and Coach Pagano and Reggie Wayne and some different things like that. And then others are our current players. So you're always looking for opportunities, both with what's going on currently with the team, those storylines, but then also maybe what are things historically that are relevant. Certain, we think about, the Colts Super Bowl anniversary will be coming up, in a few years. So what are we going to do with those type of things? And so those are all different areas of which we try to tap into and look for opportunities to tell unique stories, because as much excitement as there is currently behind the team, and there are so many great players and great storylines to root for, you always have people who are still so attached to that era of the Colts, right? And what that meant to the team. I mean, there's a reason that there is a statue of Peyton Manning outside of the stadium, and that those players, you have how many that are in the Hall of Fame. Dwight Freeney just went into the Hall of Fame this year. We did a whole episode of Behind the Colts exclusively on Dwight and his experience going into Canton. So you're always looking, for both of those angles that you can work. And there are a lot of people that have been in that building for every decade. There's a podcast series that my colleague JJ Stankovitz just did on the move of the Colts from Baltimore to Indianapolis and all of what went into that. So there's still a ton of interest about the history, and there are more and more emerging outlets to be able to do it with the podcast space and YouTube. I mean, it's almost infinite, and so we're really trying to capitalize on all of the different avenues and different mediums with which we can touch.
That's really cool. When you're thinking of story, is it hard for you to switch your brain off and not be in work mode, or are you just always constantly
Yes. It's if you sat my husband in here right now, he'd be like, yes, it's annoying. Sometimes I'll get home and I'll start talking to him, and he's like, weren't you just at work all day and yet you're still talking about more work? Turn it off. It's okay. We can calm down. But which is a good balance. And I think it's really important to have other areas and be able to have other avenues of your life and other interests and different things with which you find fulfillment and through which you find fulfillment, because one, those are going to recharge you, and those are really important. And something else I think about is sometimes I love to read, and it's easy for me to just get into reading, sports biographies and different things like that. But I also have found I like to just, read a novel from time to time. And I think about when I do actively try to switch in a different direction, and a lot of it's just being intentional and being mindful and saying, instead of scrolling on my phone, or instead of, looking at these different things, or looking how something performed on this, different channel, whatever, take an hour and just read. And I think about how much better I feel and how much more inspired I am when I do take time to do other things. One thing for me is running and working out and going on walks with my dog and all of that. Those are areas with which I find it easiest to kind of transition out of work mode. So sometimes I need to build in a bit of a buffer, at the end of the workday, before I go home, do kind of something, or right when you get home, something that helps you transition into being out of work mode and into home mode. So whether that's walking the dog, working out, or a lot of times too, it's cooking dinner. That's when it's okay, once you're cooking dinner, we're trying to kind of, shut it off to some degree. And, you're still checking email and doing things intermittently, but for the most part, trying to do those things. You have to. Otherwise, you do. It's obviously a profession in which you are on a lot. So you also have to be very protective of your headspace and your mental space and your energy and all of those type of things.
I definitely feel like it's hard, especially in working in the sports industry. You're already interested in sports, and then you're going to work in sports, and then you go home and you look at your phone and you're caught up in the feed of everything else that's going on. Mm-hmm. So like you said, it's good to have that other thing to do to distract you, like you said, running, which has become a big part of your life. And you said you're coming up on 5 years of running a mile every day?
Guys, I better not get hurt. Okay. I seriously, because yes, I am.
So I'll knock on wood too.
Yeah, everybody collectively.
Everybody knock on wood together.
All the good juju right here. I started a little daily mile streak. So I run at least 1 mile a day and have every day since November 1st of 2019. But I have a background as a runner. I competed in track and field and cross country when I was in college. So it's always been part of kind of my DNA to run. I am trying to get a lot better because like I've noticed like when I actually do some strength training and some other things and yoga, it helps a whole lot with my running. So I try to not just run, but it has been something that just creating that habit and just seeing how much of a ripple effect that has when you do one positive thing, one healthy thing, one beneficial thing. You know, I just think about it as just being intentional. And I know I've said that word a couple times. That was like my word for the year at the beginning of the year was just intentionality. And so like the funny thing is I need to, before the anniversaries, look all of the different cities, or at least all the different states in which I have run miles over this little stretch of time.
Oh, yeah, because you've traveled for work, and so you have to do it while you're gone somewhere.
Yeah. It's all over the place, too. Sometimes it's first thing in the morning. Sometimes it's been in the middle of the day. Like, out where the Colts complex is, we're right by Eagle Creek Park. So sometimes it's toss my running shoes on a lunch break and go out and run then. Or I've had a couple close calls, like, 11:30 something at night and getting it in and different things. So
yeah, 5-minute mile in.
Yeah, it's a sprint. Crank it up to that 9.0 on the treadmill. Get her in.
So is it like where everyone has like a chapstick forever they go? You have like running shoes always with you.
Seriously,
basically?
no, that's a great analogy. Yeah. I do. I have a couple obviously in my house. I have 2 pair at my desk at work. I have a locker at work that I have them into. So yeah, you just keep them on you. It's people who are trying to do it. I tell them to just keep shoes in your car at all times, because how often have you like gotten somewhere and maybe you're like, I don't know, like it's in between appointments or you're meeting a friend or you have 45 minutes in between a class because something got out, and you can go and, if it's not a run, maybe it's just a walk or whatever it might be. So yes, I am equipped with shoes at all times. I'm surprised they're not just like in my bag. They're almost an appendage of myself at this point.
She's going to carry them with her.
Yeah.
She's like, hey guys, here's my shoes. Okay, so you said about you were a college athlete. Where did you go? What did you study? What was your college career like doing all that?
I went to IU Bloomington and ran track and cross country, and went to IU for the experience of running within the Big Ten and then also having the opportunity to go to such a fantastic journalism school. To me, it was just all around like a perfect fit. I grew up in New Albany, Indiana, so I was about an hour and a half away from my family. Perfect distance. They could come up. I could get home. I have 2 younger sisters, so being able to go back and forth was big for me. So ran middle distance, 800, 1500. Actually had an injury my junior year and had to have knee surgery. And at that point, you think about when you get through your junior year, like you're really on track to graduate in a certain period of time. So I had no idea what to do because I'm like, wait, I had some eligibility left, but I was already going to finish my undergrad degree in journalism, and then realized that I had that 5th year. I had a full 5th year of eligibility to use. I could get a master's degree and still compete. And I came back actually even better thanks to awesome and a phenomenal coach, Judy Wilson, my coach. She was one of my greatest mentors. All of our athletic staff, a great surgeon, was back and running better than ever even after the injury. So was like, okay, there's no way I'm leaving school earlier than I have to. I want to maximize this experience. So pursued a master's degree within the kinesiology program, actually at IU, in sport communication, marketing management, a little bit broad. It was awesome. Was able to get a master's in about 12 months and had another year of running collegiately. So when I left IU, I had competed in 4 NCAA championships, 2 in track and 2 in cross country, and left with phenomenal experiences and bachelor's degree in journalism, master's degree in sport communication, and a lot of great internship experience along the way as well. So very, very proud Hoosier right here.
Hey.
Oh, yeah.
You're the IU fan, huh?
Everybody's an IU fan right now. They're undefeated.
Right.
Yeah,
gotta be one.
If you're a football fan, yeah.
I know. How long was your recovery for your knee?
Oh, long. It was really long. I'm thinking about it. I mean, was on crutches for quite a few weeks, and then it was biking and cross training and doing a lot. I probably didn't run for 3 months or so, 3 to 4 months before I was starting to like run again. So I think that's something else that I have in the back of my mind when I don't take for granted, like the ability with doing like the daily mile. It was a really interesting period of time too, which great follow-up question, by the way. So I got injured in February and went through rehab February, March, April. And then in May, I was actually headed to Bristol, Connecticut to intern at ESPN. I was very fortunate to secure one of the internships that they have through the Association of Women in Sports Media. So I leave for Bristol and I'm still not fully healed. And I basically have to kind of take this program from, my coach and my athletic trainers to be like, all right, this is how you're going to have to do this on your own. So I spent that period of time, trying to figure out like going to the ESPN gym and like just grueling it out on the elliptical and then running on certain days and not probably doing nearly as much lifting. So I came back, and because I had this awesome internship opportunity I didn't want to pass up, it took me a while to come back because I was still trying to intern, and I was a little bit on my own trying to make my way back from the injury. So all told, I probably wasn't really running at full strength until that September.
Wow.
Yeah. It probably took a little bit longer. Like if I'd stayed in Bloomington, done all of that, I probably would have been back a lot sooner, but it all worked out. How am I going to pass up?
Right. I was going to say, was there even like a thought to not do it?
Not really. I think I kind of saw it as I had already had this setback, and this was a period of time that maybe I could take advantage of what this was. And I knew coming out of the internship experience, okay, this is the ultimate internship experience. I can take this, and then I know that I can go back on campus and start in cross country and use cross country as kind of an opportunity to get back in shape and be fully invested in that, because I had this experience to really focus on my internship and doing that and setting myself up for what I was going to do post-graduation. So yeah, it was, one of those things that it was taken out of my hands, and you just kind of had to have faith that certain opportunities were coming to you or certain adversities were coming to you, because things were going to come your way, and it all worked out the way that it should. I mean, at first I was like, why am I going to stay for a fifth year? I'm so far behind. My friends are graduating. They already have jobs lined up, all of these things. So I think that there's a good lesson in trying to not compare your journey to anyone else's and not falling into that comparison trap, because certain opportunities and experiences are going to come to you in the time that they're meant for you. And you just have to have, faith in that and use everything, because your story and your journey, your path is going to be completely unique.
That's awesome.
Yeah, which is hard to hard to think because everybody else is going through their different journeys, which
the comparison's hard sometimes.
Very.
What was it like to move like halfway across the country and do all this and then like be at ESPN? Like, what was your time at ESPN like during that, and just like while you were doing all this rehab and being there, like what was the internship part like?
I'd never been to Connecticut before I accepted the internship. So thankfully my mom like drove out there with me and helped me get settled in. I kind of joke that it was like the ultimate undergrad summer camp, because we had this huge group of interns. We all lived in the same apartment complex together. We were all working these like crazy schedules, because obviously, it's not a Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Some of us were on, you're working the late sports center, or you're working Baseball Tonight, or you're working ESPN News, and you're doing all of these different things. It was incredible. I mean, day one, they put you to work. We had a couple of days of orientation, and then the first day I was on the job, I was cutting College World Series highlights that were airing on SportsCenter. And so it was an immersive experience, but you're surrounded by people who are so passionate about what you're doing. So yeah, I mean, the days are long, the hours are kind of wacky, your off days are kind of falling on Wednesday and Thursday, so you're trying to find another intern or somebody else. Hey, does somebody else have this day off? Is there something we want to do? Does somebody want to go to Hartford and go to dinner? But the cool thing is out there, when we did have days off, so much is close by. I mean, we would take the train into Boston maybe for a day if you had it. We would go to, Watch Hill, Rhode Island, or you could go into the city. We would go to New York from time to time, because everything out there is so close in proximity that we would bounce around a little bit. So, I mean, the ultimate like kind of growing life and professional experience, like all in the span of 3 months.
Wow.
That's a short amount of time to be doing all of that.
Yeah.
But that must have been really nice to have everybody else in the same proximity, so then you could go to each other about anything, like at any time if you're struggling with this, or like if they've already done it, to ask them questions. Did you ever have to go through that with them?
We were great. We had such a great group of not only interns, but then also people who were advising us and seeing us through the process, and people who I'm still close with to this day. Like I think about my roommate, Angela. She and I run a lot of the same shifts, and we would come home from, get out after the 11 o'clock Sports Center, and we would wait for like the 1 a.m. like re-air of Sports Center, and we would sit and we would eat like our like late night pudding. We were addicted to like Jell-O instant pudding at that point in time, and so we were like, oh, let's watch our highlights air. So it was like really cool, and then I'd be like, oh, that was awesome, and so it was really really cool to do that. And then everyone was around. You were working hand in hand with the producers and the anchors, and so during that, I became very close with John Anderson, who recently retired from Sports Center. He is a huge track and field guy. He was a high jumper at Missouri, and he's actually going to Missouri to begin teaching starting in January. And he and I bonded kind of over track and field, and he was a huge mentor for me during that period of time. And would just, whether it was I had questions or he would just be like, hey, when this situation, or when you have an opportunity, do this, that, right? Like, even if you didn't have to ask, he would anticipate maybe things that would come your way. And there was a really good group of students from Missouri as well. So all of us kind of were in this little core group together, and, guided by John, and Scott Van Pelt was awesome during that period of time too. Those were probably two of the anchors who I was around most. But John is a huge influence on my career, and he helped me break into track and field as a broadcaster as well, when there was an opportunity to start working as an analyst on some broadcasts with ESPN and SEC Network. He was a huge advocate for me, and continues to be as I go through and do more and more, track and field, in addition to obviously my role with Colts.
That's awesome. So kind of sticking with the track, like you talk about, you did SEC and ESPN, and now you kind of do more of the USA track. It's like, what's your experience been like through that? And like, especially you got to go to the trials and like all of that, just like, what's all that been like for you?
So cool. And I think too, as someone who grew up loving track and field, so my parents were both coaches, and so we were a track family. And I think about, it used to be every 4 years, like you would be able to watch track. So I would get super excited. My parents would let me stay up late to watch track and field during the Olympic Games, because that was the one opportunity that you had to do it. Now, obviously, like there are more and more emerging outlets and greater attention on track and field. So I feel so fortunate and so privileged to have been a part of these broadcasts alongside a rise in the attention and the emphasis and the investment being made in track and field. So I first started doing sidelines for Big Ten Network on some track and field, and then I had the opportunity to go into the booth and work as an analyst, and that was such a big jump for me to go from sidelines to having a voice where I don't want to say you have to be critical, but you have to be more analytical, right? You're supposed to break things down and explain. And I didn't have formal training really as an analyst, and few analysts do. It's so much learned by doing and getting reps. So for me, that was a huge opportunity, and a point in which I thought, oh, like my opinion is valuable, which is different. And then trying to be sure that you're stating something or explaining something and then backing it up. So for me, in terms of growth as a journalist and as a broadcaster, that's been one of the incredibly valuable experiences for me. And it infiltrates everything else that I do. I think I'm a better sideline reporter because I understand the analyst role and what the person, if I'm on the sidelines, I know how to help the play-by-play or help the color commentary from what I'm doing. And I'm better as providing analysis as a sideline reporter in that aspect too, and being challenged and just continuing to grow and do all of those type of things, because no matter how long you're in this business, the more opportunities that you have to get reps, to challenge yourself, to do new things are so important to continue to grow and challenge yourself and evolve, because the business is nonstop evolving. And if you don't keep up, you get left behind. So the more ways that you can diversify yourself, it just becomes, I think, not only do you make yourself more marketable, I think you find yourself having more and more fun because there are new ways in which you can use your skill set or evolve your skill set.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I feel like there's so many different jobs in the sports industry that it's hard to, sometimes I feel like it's hard to choose from because you're like, that looks fun. That also looks really like interesting to learn. But when you were doing track and field, did you put yourself in the position to go from sideline to being in the booth with them, or did they offer it to you?
They were actually just looking for people to be in the booth, and there at that point, there are a lot more now. There weren't a lot of people who had a background in track and field and in TV. So it was just kind of fortunate that I had this overlapping like Venn diagram of sorts of, okay, we need someone with track and field knowledge. We also need someone who has experience in broadcasting. Okay, she's never been in the booth before. However, she's done enough track and field broadcasts. She know what that. So they kind of took a gamble on me. They're like, well, all right, there's this kind of unproven gal in Indianapolis who we're going to give her a shot. And it was, the other thing too is it was Conference USA track and field on Fox Sports, and then I went on and I did Big 12. So it was, they only do a couple of these broadcasts a year. So they didn't have an established crew where it's like, okay, we use the same 3 people every year on this broadcast. It was something that they were expanding because there are so many different, of the Fox Sports branches. So yeah, they just kind of took a risk, and I didn't exactly know what I was doing at the time. And I think the lesson is like, you have to just say yes and know that you're going to figure it out and do whatever it takes to figure it out. So that's when I made calls to John Anderson, and I made calls to other people who had been in and say, hey, what can I do? How should I prepare? And you figure it out along the way. It's one of those things that you just have to, when the opportunities come, you figure out how to make it work, because that if the opportunity is being presented to you, there is a reason, and it's whether it is going to lead to something from that or it's just an opportunity for you to grow.
Absolutely.
So good. So obviously now you're with the Colts doing that. Were you a fan of football? Were you kind of did you have to learn it before you went from the track to the football? Because obviously you're a track athlete. You probably weren't a football athlete, I'm going to guess. So how did you transition into that and learn all that to get to where you are now?
Yeah, I grew up around all sports, really. My dad will joke that I was sitting in his lap, watching everything with him, as we were kids. And my mom, I mentioned my parents were coaches. My mom coached cheerleading at the University of Louisville. So my childhood was kind of tagging along with her, watching college football, college basketball, doing things like that. So I'd always been around it. The area I grew up in is much more college sports centric, not a ton of NFL influence, because you're kind of in that no man's land. You've got some Cincinnati Bengals fans, you've got some Tennessee Titans fans, you have some Colts fans. At that point, the Rams were in St. Louis, so you kind of had some it was this weird kind of territory. But there are a ton of obviously Louisville fans, IU fans, Kentucky fans. So I didn't pay as much attention to the NFL when I was growing up. I became a fan of the NFL in college, because this is really what's kind of funny about all of this is, when I was at IU, Sundays would be our primary off day, because you would run meets on Saturdays. So you would have Sunday, you might do a long run in the morning on your own, and then you would have Sunday afternoons. So I started going on Sundays to watch Colts game at Yogi's. Shout out to Yogi's in Bloomington, if anyone knows. And I would set up and I would just watch Colts games there. It was my thing that I looked forward to doing at the end of the week. That was my, kind of reward for getting through all your classes throughout the week, having, a meet on Saturday, whatever it was. So I got hooked on the NFL, just watching it. And obviously knew Peyton Manning and knew everything, but that was how I became a fan of the Colts. That became my thing on Sundays. I would go by myself. I would invite friends. It was hey, I'm going to be here. I'm going to head that way at 12:30. If anyone wants to meet, I'm going to order some lunch. And people would trickle in and trickle out. But that was my Sunday ritual. And then obviously as I started doing more and more in sports, I started watching it differently and understanding the game differently. And then when I got my first job in local news, I realized that you have to keep track of everything. I mean, there were days when I was, covering high school basketball, and the next day I might be covering a college football game, or we would go and we would cover Bengals training camp when I was in Louisville, or whatever that might be. So I realized that you have to have a working knowledge of absolutely everything. And when I was going into college, I really thought that I wanted to do more writing. And just my experiences coincided with more emerging opportunities in broadcasting. So just started reporting more and more. And the first time I did sidelines was actually college football, when Big Ten Network was ascending and doing IU and Purdue. So started just I love live sports. I always wanted to cover live sports. So doing college football helped get me reps. And then when I moved to Indy in 2010, I started having more and more regular opportunities to cover the NFL. But my first regular opportunities covering the NFL were when I was working in Terre Haute at the NBC affiliate, WTWO, in Terre Haute. I was the weekend sports anchor there, and I was sports reporting during the week. So every Sunday, every Colts Sunday, then I was reporting. So I think that that's probably what gave me the best foundation to prepare myself, was that experience. And then when I came to Indy and was doing a lot of different things before I had a full-time role at Fox and CBS, and then went on to the Colts. So all of it has fed into itself for sure.
That's awesome.
And you went from being in sports and reporting sports, and then you went and you worked at Fox, and that wasn't any, at first it wasn't sports related, right?
Not at all. I was on the morning show doing traffic.
What?
Yeah, I really was. So I at the time, so I was at, let me kind of backtrack. I'm doing all of this. We're going all over the map here. I was at the time freelancing and doing a lot of Pacers game day coverage, in-game MC, Pacers.com, all of that, and was working alongside Eva Pilgrim, who is now at Good Morning America. She was at the Fox affiliate in Indy, and she mentioned to me, hey, our news director asked if you would be interested in, coming in and having a meeting. She worked on the morning show too. And I was like, yeah, sure. So he brought me in and was like, can you fill in on traffic? And I was like, again, yeah. I'm going to have to figure out how to do traffic, right? So Lee Rosenthal gave me a first opportunity to come in, and I would seriously just do traffic whenever they needed someone to fill in. That led to a full-time role, and actually at the time there was an opportunity in sports. There was an opportunity full-time on the morning show, and I auditioned for both, and the sports opportunity went to someone else, and I ended up landing a spot on the morning show. And at the time I was like, I feel like the sports opportunity was really what I wanted. But truly, I could be more grateful for my time on the morning show, and what, it did for my life, and having that role. I mean, mornings, and what's cool about Fox is there's no national broadcast. Fox stays local, so you're 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. So the amount of reps that I was able to get, and the way that I was able to kind of establish myself within that broadcast. Also, morning shows are so like a family. It's such an intimate time in which people wake up, they're getting their day started, they turn the TV on, and you're having a role in which your information that you're reporting is vital to people and how they're going about their day. So worked with an incredible team there who was so supportive. And one of the things I'll tell people is doing that was such a good training ground for sideline reporting, because in the span of, I was doing updates every 15 minutes on traffic. So every 15 minutes, I have to gather what information is new, what is pertinent, and then how to relay it in a way that is going to be exactly what people need. You have to be concise, you have to be clear. And so all of that helped me generate a great way to prepare myself for doing in the moment type of updates, sideline reporting, because nothing is scripted, everything's ad-libbed, you're doing all of those same things. And once I had a foot in the door and was working at Fox, and then they added the CBS affiliate too, anytime that they needed someone to fill in sports, I would work a Friday or a Saturday to help them too. So then eventually, after a few years of doing that, is what opened the door for me to go full-time within the sports department prior to going over to the Colts.
I guess you don't really realize how similar your sideline reporting is to being on the traffic, like daily news, like how you have to have like quick information. You don't really realize how similar those like roles can be.
And that's why I tell people to just be open-minded, because there are so many different opportunities in which the skill sets are overlapping that you may not realize until you're really in it. I think about like, it's silly, but yeah, if there is an accident on, let's say I-69 headed toward 465, I slip right back into it. Okay, well, where is the accident? How many people are, like, how, significant is it? How much is blocked? How far is the backup? And then I have to give you an alternate route for that. Okay, how am I doing all of that in like 45 seconds? And maybe there are a few different things. And also deducing, if there are 3 or 4 accidents, which are maybe the 2 that I need to touch on, which are the most critical things that are going to impact most people. So all of those type of, judgment calls and different things, those are all different things that I would implement into a sideline report. Okay, if we have a couple different storylines working, what are the most significant that we need to hit on now? Also, what are the implications? If there's an injury situation going on, what is the context I can provide to that? And then what am I telling people? Okay, if this person is out and he's being evaluated, is he on the sidelines being evaluated? Is he going into the locker room to be evaluated? Oh, what does that mean for someone else? A different type of, so those are all things that I am taking into account. Like, Ryan Kelly, for example, I'm just going to draw on a recent experience, and this wasn't a major thing, but last week at Tennessee, Ryan Kelly had a calf injury and he had been ruled out. So I have this report. Hey, Colts are going to be without veteran center Ryan Kelly, in addition to battling that neck injury that, had him out the last 2 weeks. It's now a calf injury as well. He's sidelined. So it's going to be 2 rookies up front for Joe Flacco as Tanner Bortolini joins Dalton Tucker on that offensive line. So it's not just reporting the injury, it's adding a little greater context to it. And then people are like, oh man, all right, Joe Flacco now has 2 rookies, up front. And he's got one at center and one at right guard that he's playing with. So it's exactly the same. I wouldn't have known to do those things if I hadn't worked in traffic and learned how to tell a bigger story. Because I could just say, there's a crash at 96 and 69. There's an injury to X player and this is what it is. Or you can use that information, use your context, use what you know, and give people, relevancy to what you're reporting.
I would have never even thought that those 2 things would connect that way.
Yeah.
But when you said you did sports on the news like once a week whenever they had the opportunity, or was it multiple times?
When I was filling in at Fox, whenever they would call, it would vary. When the regular anchors would be traveling for, Colts coverage, Pacers coverage, whatever it would be, I would step in. So it would vary a lot. Some weeks it was maybe twice. Others it would go a couple weeks before I would step in. So any opportunity I could, though, I would jump in. And when I was on the morning show too, I was still doing Pacers. So,
oh my gosh.
So there was a lot of missed sleep during that period of time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Does it all?
Yeah.
Do you think that getting that sports opportunity while you were doing your job there otherwise helped you to be where you were with the Colts?
No question. That was a critical juncture in terms of creating opportunities for the Colts, because when I was at Fox and CBS 4, they were, and actually still are, the broadcast partner of the Colts. And I really got my foot in the door with the Colts because at the time, they were doing 3 different TV shows a week. And so they needed someone to come in and host one of their weekly shows, a little bit more of like a feature news magazine style. So I actually started freelancing with the Colts while I was still at Fox and CBS. And because I'd been around a little bit, and then I was covering the team almost as a beat reporter, because when I was at Fox, I was Monday to Friday. And so I'd spend 3 days a week or so with the Colts. And one of the things that I was doing is trying to do different sports features. So what we were trying to do is incorporate more sports content into the newscasts so that it wasn't just isolated to maybe that 3 minutes that you have within a sportscast, but how can I make a sports story relevant to anyone who's watching? So I started doing more and more of that and being around the team a lot. And that's really what created the opportunity where I made, a lot of connections and built some great relationships within the building. And when my good friend Caroline Can decided to take a different opportunity, she was the team reporter for several years, and she left, and we're still very close to this day. Actually, this is a big weekend upcoming because her husband now works for the Miami Dolphins, so a little bit of a rivalry game there. I was able to interview, and so grateful for our VP, my boss, Dave Knickerbocker, for having faith in me to make the transition to this role, and then continued opportunities to grow within it.
So with you all the way back to your college to now, like, how has it been being a woman in sports media? Like, how has it changed from, like, it's a little more normal now than it was? Like, just how was your whole experience? Like,
I tell people all the time that I was a little blind to it to some degree because coming up as a track athlete, everyone's all together. Like, your championships are mixed gender. It's men's and women's championships, right? Like in cross country, you run the women's race and then 20 minutes later you run the men's race, or vice versa. Or, it's at the Big Ten championships in track, you're going to run the men's 100 and the women's 100 and you alternate back and forth. So I was kind of used to this space of like, we were all really just treated equally, you travel together and all of that. So when I started doing track and field and I would be in the booth as an analyst, I was tasked with covering both the men and the women, because if they can pay an analyst to cover both, they're not going to, they'd rather do that than pay two different people, right? So I was really comfortable. I didn't see much of a difference with it. And then as I navigated more and I was trying to kind of break in, and was working as an associate producer in Louisville, trying to get a full-time on-air job for a while, I started to see that I was losing out on opportunities to either people who were more established, or there were, a lot of men. And there was somewhat of a resistance to certain markets, maybe weren't as open-minded to it. And I'm so grateful for Jason Penske and WTWO and that crew there who interviewed me, and there was never a question about, can you do this job? Can you carry a camera? Are you sure you can you shoot? This is a very demanding, there's a heavy workload to this. It can be a physical job. No, there was never any question about that. And I think that part of it is I have found a ton of awesome women within sports media, more and more of them all the time, who have helped me in just different situations, not even that are, super female centric, just, in being a young person. And that's what I tell people all the time. It is a competitive field to break into no matter what. And there are going to be challenges regardless of the background, regardless of your demographic, whatever it happens to be. So you're going to be tested. You're going to be challenged. Don't ever think that the deck is stacked more against you than it is against anyone else. It's all just going to be a test of how much you want to do it. It's hard to break into because not everyone is meant to do this. So I just try to, sometimes it's hard just because you're young, you don't have experience. It might not be because you're female. So one of the things that I learned is you can't be any different than who you are. So just know that the right opportunity is going to come to you because you're the right fit for the job. So, as adaptable as you have to be, and you want to be open-minded and all of that, just always stick to knowing that when you're true to yourself and you do all the right things, everything else is going to, fall into place. And one of the pieces of advice I have for any young person, male or female, trying to get into sports is always be there to do the job. Maintain your professionalism. Never give anyone the excuse to think that you're there to be a fan or to get any other advantage or whatever it is. And that takes care of itself. When you do good work and you're diligent and you're professional, everything else falls by the wayside. You don't have to worry about all the other stuff.
Yeah. And us, we work directly with players for the Fever, and they're just people. The more you work, you're they're just people who are really good at something. Really good at something.
Yeah. It helps going into stuff too when you personally, I didn't really watch prior to that. So I was I don't know who any of these people are really besides one or two. So you just go in there and you're this is super chill. And they're obviously just people like us, which I feel gets misstrued, or everybody's oh, they're a player. They have to be perfect. No, they're there to have fun and do their job too.
And they respect that you guys just have a job to do too. Like
Yeah.
they understand that. And so there's a little bit of a mutual respect that's there too. And, the other thing I would say about being a female in this business as well is most of the guys, like most of the players, most of the coaches, like they either, have strong women in their life in one way or shape or form. It's their moms, it's their family members, it's their wives, it might be their daughters. Like I can't tell you how many of our, different coaches who I've worked with who are like, hey, my daughter saw you on the sidelines and she thought it was so cool. They see that there's value in equal representation across the board, and that doesn't just have to be for women. It's everywhere that you want your broadcasters, you want reporters, you want journalists to be a little bit reflective of your fan base and of your audience. So it works to everyone's benefit when we do, diversify our teams and where we do make sure that everyone feels that they have a seat at the table.
Good. So
Especially when you're working in a male-dominated sport. Like, it's all just male athletes.
Hey,
like,
I'll tell you though, like credit to the NFL and to the Indianapolis Colts. There are so many women in positions of power within that organization. Like a couple our director of football operations, Mulaney Lowe, she just is so darn good at her job. Like, and she is just awesome. The leadership of the Irsay family, Carly, Casey, Kaylin, and what they do, just across the board, there are women in our athletic training room, our team dietitians. We have women in coaching. Izzy Diaz is our assistant special teams coach. Like she's in there. I mean, we have so many, and I know that there are some that I'm missing, but really more and more each and every year, there are different fellowships and different opportunities. And I think our building has been, as on the forefront of it as any. So that's really, really great to see. And truly, you're seeing the Colts be an example in that space.
you can really see the growth. Like, you see it through the organization. You see it through other sports. Like the recent hockey coach getting, what is she on the
Seattle Kraken?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Seeing that everywhere is so exciting because you're not, like some sports, you're just not used to it. And so knowing that the Colts have so many females in their organization is great. You look up to some of them.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you have those people who we can be there for one another. I mean, I know you guys talk to Brett Kramer, who I work with day in and day out. And there have been, sometimes too, you're more comfortable maybe going to someone, maybe I'm more comfortable going to Brett with something, it could be not even work related, but just, having those allies. And, they don't have to be fellow women. They can be men too. It's important to have male allies too, and different people who you feel like you can go to in different situations. So just finding those mentors and, finding those people who you can go to in this business are really, really important because you need a cheerleading squad, right? You need your hype people in these situations, and people can just kind of empathize with the different situations and different things or things you might be working through. Not that anything's even, bad, but just, hey, I'm trying to decide between this and this or whatever. I'm weighing these options. Like, it's good to have those sounding boards and good to have them within your own building, within your own profession, and then people from outside experiences too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So good. Oh, so good. She's just saying so much. I'm like, yep. Go off, Queen. Keep going. So part of like your game day, what we've seen, what other people on social media notice, is your outfits and your shoes. So we have to talk about the fits because I have to say, how much of your closet is blue?
So much. And it's not even at this point, I'm just going to have to come out with it because my husband will listen to this and he'll call it out. There are multiple closets at this point. So we're bursting at the seams because I have stuff crammed into every closet of the house at this point. And I mean, it's better than 60% blue at this point. You have to think too, this has happened over time. This is my 6th season. So I've been accruing the blue for quite a while. I also have everyone sending me things. My mom, first and foremost, is like, I found this for you. And she'll send me something. Friends who are like, I saw his Instagram. You should buy this. And it's just so I'm constantly being influenced, like not even by influencers. Like it's my friends in my feed and everyone who's sending me anything blue, that they find. I'm always really grateful that we have a really good color too, because there are some other things that would not work on this palette. There are certain things that are not in my color wheel. So really grateful that Colts blue is one of them. But it's so fun. I mean, I appreciate that you guys ask. I have fun, doing it. And like it was a challenge, I think, earlier in my career to figure like how to dress for game day because you're running around, but you also want to be professional, and so you're trying to like strike this. But it's evolved. It's definitely evolved over time for sure.
Because Brett rocks the dresses and sneakers.
She sure does.
She makes it work. That girl. She can pull off anything. I know. I do the sneakers, and I was initially really hesitant to it because I'm shorter, so I'd be self-conscious, especially with like so many of our players are big dudes, so they'd be towering over me. I mean, there's a great photo on the sidelines this year where I'm with DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart, and I'm just dwarfed by the two of them. I mean, two of the biggest guys possible. I'll send you guys the picture in case you want to use it, but. So there's been a heavy investment in the shoe game. I really blame Jacoby Brissett for being the first person to tell me about GOAT and StockX. It's a real addiction in my life, but now I just tell people like, Christmas, birthdays, whatever, like, what do you want? I'm like, shoes. So thanks to my husband, he's invested and he's upped my shoe game for sure. But here's the thing though. Once you have like a capsule wardrobe of like these correlating colors, it all like now it's like all of these things I can just kind of mix and match when I have certain separates and all just things over time that I'll add in. Also, people like Erin Andrews, she has her line and her collection. There's a lot more cool women's sportswear than what there used to be a handful of years ago.
It really is.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Love Erin Andrews.
Yeah. She's the best.
She is awesome.
She is the best.
Do you worry about repeating outfits?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I do. I really do. But I've started to care a little bit less because I'll try to tweak it a little bit. Like suit sets are great because I'll break it up and I'll wear maybe the jacket with something different on the bottom. So I'll try to evolve it a little bit. But when you just like something, you just wear it again. Like I have this one particular, and like that's the other thing about like investing in good pieces and not feeling like you have to. Because like we're so like fast fashion right now, right? It's like everything, quick delivery, all of that. So there's this one Zara blazer. It's this tweed Zara blazer. I love it. I'm going to wear it every year that I find an opportunity to. So I've also thought like, you know what? Investing in quality pieces, things that you really love, things too that like fit well. I think that's something too that like I've figured out like what works. And once you have things that work for you, yes, stick with those. So I try not to overcomplicate it too much. I try to, as much as I have fun dressing for the job, I try to be sure that I'm actually just doing the job well. And that should be the focus more so on how I look doing it. But,
But I'm sure it's so fun to dress up for the day.
I'm going to take a line. So Anthony Walker, one of our former linebackers, he's actually now with the Dolphins, so he'll be here this weekend. But he was drafted by the Colts, and he's just one of the best dudes I've ever been around. But he had this whole mantra of, look good, play good, pay good, eat good, live good. It goes on and on and on. So I've kind of taken a note from Anthony Walker, and I've always like had that in the back of my mind that when I do feel better going into a game day, it infiltrates how I do my job that day.
There's just something about it. I feel like it just really helps like everything for the day.
Yeah, it does. I think so.
Yeah. What do you do like on game days, like if you don't feel great or like your mental health isn't like, or you're just like, man, I just really don't want to go to work
when
today.
you're like tired.
Yeah.
You just can't take it for granted. Like I think for me, no matter how I feel in those few hours leading up to kickoff, when I go out there and I fire up my microphone, I put my headset on right around 12:30. Like I stand on the field and I'm like, what? I always have this like reflective moment of what the heck did I do to deserve to be here? Like how many people get to stand on a football field, period? How many people get to stand on a football field week in and week out and get to call it work? Like this is awesome. Like this is as soon as the guys like come out of the tunnel. And it's so fun. Like we have fun on the sidelines. Like I'm fist bumping our trainers. I have certain of our players that I see and like they'll hype me up and I'm like, you guys go. Like you've got to go play. So I think all of that, like truly it's the people. Like when you see those players and you think about like you can't be down. You can't be negative when you see all of what they put into it, the coaches that they're putting into it week in and week out. And like the sliver of a role that I get to have in all of that is such a privilege. Like it truly is. I get so fired up like during the anthem, during the introductions, all of that. So that to me, I'm able to kind of compartmentalize anything else that's going on to try to like shut it out of my mind at that point in time. It's that, I don't know if you guys have like familiar with like the Marvin Harrison quote, like they pay me to practice, I play the games for free. Like Sundays are free. Like that's the icing on the cake for it all. Like the work comes during the week, and that goes to like the prep. Like truly, all of my prep should be pretty much done by the time I get to Sunday. So I get to enjoy Sunday. I get to just talk on the radio with my friends and cover these incredible players. Like it's such a phenomenal, opportunity and privilege to get to be in that position. And there's a responsibility. Like I have a responsibility to our fan base, to our audience, to no matter what is going on, to deliver the same quality of product, and the same level of reporting and journalism each and every week, no matter what. So and I don't take that for granted.
I was going to say, it must be just so surreal. And does it ever just take you back to when you were in Bloomington watching every Sunday?
Oh my God, it probably should more and more that I think about it, when I would have had like mini corn dogs and, French fries and different things like in front of me. I think a lot of it, I do. I have those like moments of thinking about my second date with my husband. We were at a Colts game. We were sitting in the stands for a Monday night game, Colts and Texans.
That's so crazy.
So I think about like those things of I, went to my first Colts game when I was probably like 22. And just kind of, reflecting on a little bit of that for sure. But it's awesome. It really is. And I think too, like one of the things that I tell people is I didn't have an in. There are certainly those stories of, people who are broadcasters from generations, right? Like their parents were in the business and that helped them get a foot in the door. Like I didn't necessarily have that background. I had a very sports-centric family, but I didn't necessarily, have someone, who was like a, kind of opening the doors for me. And so hopefully for anyone else who has a dream of doing this and being on those sidelines in whatever facet that is, like know that opportunity is there. If you work hard enough for it, you can certainly create the opportunity.
Mm-hmm. What's your favorite part of Sundays? Before the games, during, after,
Favorite
anything?
Part of Sundays. Favorite part is just like getting to kick off, like the moment, like all of the anticipation to that moment, and then kickoff happens, and it's like yes, like let's go. Like you kind of feel like you're shot out of a tunnel. If I can just explain like the adrenaline of like that moment, and then you quickly have to settle in because it's like okay, there's all this, and then it happens, and I'm like all right, now I got to keep tabs on things, right? Mm-hmm. Like and then. There's nothing better than a win and going into a locker room and having the opportunity to just be a sounding board for those guys and letting them like share that praise and, having the privilege of being in that position and, bugging these guys all week long. I'm doing interviews with guys on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Then sometimes I'm talking to him on Friday. Sometimes I'm talking to them before the game on Saturday or on Sunday, excuse me. So when I can go in there and be like, all right, now we get to talk about it. And just to see them like effuse like with that opportunity, it's the coolest. There's nothing like that dynamic. And I really never try to take it for granted of being in that position. I'll also say like, people ask a lot like, oh, do you get nervous? Like, absolutely. I am nervous before every single opening hit. So Matt Taylor throws to me right before kickoff every single time. And yeah, I'm nervous. It's not, and there's a difference between being nervous and excited and being nervous and anxious. So anxiousness comes from lack of preparation or self-doubt. Excitement and nervousness comes from, oh my gosh, yes, like you feel something. You feel the magnitude of what you're getting to do. Like you're feeding off of the energy and the environment that's surrounding you. That's a good thing, right? If you don't feel like, I feel like that's complacency and you never want to feel that. So you certainly, there is a good positive level of nervousness. You just have to distinguish between what that is. And if you're prepared, then it's a good nervous.
Did you ever deal with that anxiousness when you started out?
Oh, I think so because I didn't necessarily know how to prepare, right? Like I'm preparing, but did I prepare the right things. And so I think that is where, and that just goes with, experience and repetitions and all of those things. So, for sure. I didn't know. I remember, I'd prepare, and I still prepare a lot of notes, but I prepared so many notes because you don't really know, you have not established a process on what is going to be pertinent. And I was actually talking to someone just the other day, and they're like, how often are you tweaking your prep? And I was like, I'm still tweaking it. Like, I'm still finding things that work better than others. Like, I used to just do and I still do everything in a Google Doc, but I used to just kind of do pages and clusters of notes. Now I've started putting them in tables of different topics or different players. So it's immediately I can find things a little bit, but seriously, I'm, however many years into doing this, and I'm still evolving it and tweaking it a little bit at a time. So, oh my gosh, I think about the first time I stepped on a sideline in 2009, I had no idea what I was doing. No, I mean, I shouldn't say no idea. I had an idea of what I was doing, but I didn't necessarily know all of the right things to put myself in the best position to be successful is probably how I should say that. Yeah.
No, I would say that is definitely a good point because you evolve over the years and what's been the process of your prep? Like you said, you changed the outlines. Did you at first just kind of write a bunch of stuff down, or did you have something given to you, or was it all on your own?
Yeah, all on your own. I mean, we do get, and I'm thinking about when I was first doing sideline reporting, period, even prior to going with the Colts, you would get a stats pack during the week of things that would help you prepare, quarterback stat, every single player stats, the team stats, different things, historical things these two teams have faced off 54 times, in program history, and the record is this and this, and all of those type of things. So you would use all of that to help draw storylines, but then we would go in and you would interview coaches and you would do all of these calls. And so it would just be asking the right questions, figuring out those things, figuring out things that were going to be relevant, and getting a balance between things that are slightly more of the human interest angle that can maybe supplement certain storylines, but then other things that are more football centric. And so trying to cover all of those bases so that you have value no matter what happens. Also, things that I really didn't know of before that I kind of had to figure out, or that I talked to other people. For a sideline reporter, you need to go over and introduce yourself to the medical staff of each team to make sure that they know who you are when you're wandering around behind the sidelines, or if you're asking certain questions. The PR teams from both of those teams as well, who the point person is for PR, familiarizing yourself maybe with the stadium. Where are the locker rooms? Where are the x-ray rooms? So you can use those type of things. Tons of different things that you really don't know until you get into it and figure out exactly the cadence of it all and the demand and the expectation of it all.
When you get to the different stadiums, is that the first thing you do is find where everything is?
Luckily, most stadiums I'm now going back to, having done this enough. But yes, definitely familiarizing yourself. And fortunately, I'm able to pretty much focus on the Colts sideline. One of the things I do try to do is connect with whoever their sideline reporter is too, so that that person and I can be trading off maybe updates and this happened this weekend where one of the Titans running backs wasn't on the field. So I texted Amy Wells, Titans reporter, hey, is something going on with Pollard? And, so she's able to fire off. She's like, hey, in the tent, I'll let you know. And then she updates me too. So you have, again, there's an awesome network of people there too. You do. Injuries are very touchy, right? Where you have to go through the proper channels when you're reporting certain things. And my being a team employee, it's a little bit different than maybe what a network broadcast might do. But yeah, sure, you're definitely familiarizing yourself with all of those, different things as you're going through and learning each and every different place and, kind of different processes to it all.
Yeah. And you were just in Nashville the other day, right? Do you have a specific stadium you like to go to besides the Colts?
Yeah. Of course, I love ours. Love Lucas Oil Stadium. Love everything that we do, and that is home for sure. The Minnesota Vikings, hats off to them. They do a phenomenal job. Their stadium is beautiful. I've heard that it's actually the same engineering or architecture firm that did Lucas Oil actually did the stadium there as well, US Bank Stadium. It's awesome. And like they do their game experience, game presentation is all like really great. Love the Vikings. Chiefs is iconic. Arrowhead Stadium. I went there my first season. It was Sunday night football. It's so unique. Everything about it. Baltimore is a really fun place to play too. And then like New Orleans, their games are awesome. The atmosphere there. Jerry's World is something unlike anything I've ever seen. If you have an opportunity to go to Dallas, it is just wild because everything is just it's like amplified times 200, everything there. So those are all. And then I get to go back to Denver this year, and I'm super excited about going back to Denver. So I know that I have a very long list, but those are a few that I really, really look forward to. I'm excited. I think next year we'll be able to go to LA. I have not been to the new SoFi, so I'm really eager to go there. I've not been to Seattle. I've heard great stories about Seattle as well. We get 2 opportunities to go to New York this year, so I'm excited for that. Oh, shout out to the Buffalo Bills too. Buffalo Bills game day is pretty awesome. It's pretty iconic as well. I'm interested what it's going to be when they build the new stadium. I hope they maintain some level of like the nostalgia. But yeah, the NFL itself is just really, really cool because it is so many places just steeped in the heartbeat of those communities and those fan bases, and it's just so much a part of. Like you think about Kansas City, right? Like the Chiefs are everything there, right? And so just different places like that, it is awesome. Like just what it means in all of these different places and taking a little bit of inspiration from all of the different places we get to go to.
It's got to be so hard to choose. I can see why you have so many different options because
Yeah.
I've been to Jerry's World and it's so crazy everywhere. Like crazy. Like I didn't know that they had a separate little field. Like
Yeah.
there's so much going on there because you're all like different events. And then I went to the Viking Stadium once, but it wasn't for a game.
Oh, you got to go for a game.
But it was really interesting to hear the echo in the stadium, which I didn't know they did that.
Yeah.
Which you could, like, everything was just bouncing everywhere. Like, it's so loud in here.
So they have this like horn that they sound before the games, kind of similar to like our anvil that they do. And so like that like just bellows through the place. And then when they get that skull chant going and they start clapping, it is wild in there for sure.
I bet.
Yeah. They in terms of like their fan participation is next level there for sure.
My family's Vikings fans. But.
Wait, really?
Well, okay. One side is Vikings and one is Lions. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we're from all over, but. The Lions are actually doing well, so we're gonna enjoy our year.
Yeah, Thanksgiving's got to be difficult there.
Yeah, sometimes.
Separate.
We try not to be in the same house.
Exactly.
Right. No, that's cool. Do you like with all these stadiums and stuff you travel? Do you have a certain like city or state that you love the most? I know that's gonna be hard.
Oh yeah, I usually love places where I can go and catch up with people. One of my college best friends lives in Houston, so I always love to like steal a couple hours visiting her when I can. I mean, honestly, like Nashville is great. It's so fun to get to go there. Let me think. Any place that has a Soul Cycle, I love. I always try to get to a Soul Cycle class when I'm on the road if I can. Denver, I'm going to say shout out to Denver again. I can't wait to get back out there. I'm excited about that. I might actually even go a little bit early, a day early. I have some friends out there, so I might try to get a little time if I can get out there on the Friday before the game. Miami's cool. Like, it's never a bad time to go to Miami.
Right.
Never. All of those are a few of my favorites. I'm sure that there are some that I am missing. Actually, this year I went to Green Bay for the first time, first experience at Lambeau, and my family came along and drove up. Mm-hmm. So that now, I mean, the game itself, like that different, but the experience altogether and having them there was really sweet.
That is really awesome.
How long are you there? Like, do you have the choice to go early, or is there specific days?
Yeah, I try to be selective if I'm going to go early. Maybe not more than like it's usually been maybe once a year that I'll go out early. But I am fortunate to travel with the team, so we will if it's a Sunday 1:00 game, as many of ours are. We're leaving on early Saturday afternoon or so. Get in to our city that we're playing in. Have Saturday night. Play the game, and then we're rolling out of the stadium about an hour after the game ends and back home.
It's that quick.
Wow. It's that quick.
The players got to get out of there quick because from what we've been with in Fever, sometimes teams have a specific time they're out, or
Yeah,
it's that quick of a round at the end.
it is.
An hour. Ooh. And they have them chartered flights.
Yeah, it's
They get the chartered flights.
That's right.
Okay, I'm going away from sports for a second because
Yeah.
I have to ask about your dog.
Oh my gosh,
sweet.
so
I want to know
cute.
how you came up with the name Tugboat
Oh,
first.
no,
because
I can't. I wish I could take all the credit, but I can't. My husband came up with the name Tugboat. So we had another Mastiff, and his name was Diesel. And again, my husband named him because so he was my husband's dog first, and then ours together. And so we were trying to think of something that went in line with like Diesel. And he threw out Tugboat, and I was like, I don't know how I have a counter argument for Tugboat because we had already seen him, we'd already met him, and we knew. I mean, he's a 150-pound English Mastiff. Like, you have to have a name that complements it, and he has well embodied Tugboat. Like, it is, and it's great. There are a lot of variations. He's Tuggy, he's Boaty, he's Tuggy Buddy. It's there's so many things that you can do with it. I also just love to tell people his name. Like, we'll be out on a walk, and we live in Broad Ripple, so it's a very dog friendly area, right? And everyone's like, "Oh, can I pet your dog? What's his name?" And every single reaction was like, Tugboat, and people just it. You can't say it without smiling. Yeah, that's probably the best argument I can make for naming your dog Tugboat. Try to say it and not just smile, and that's him. So yeah. Thank you.
Does he do a lot of your mile-a-days with you?
He is a little more of a loper. He is not so much of a runner. We did just take a walk. I got him out actually before I came down here to see you guys. So he likes to walk. He likes to sniff. He has a lot of stop and start. He's easily distracted. Not a laser focus on this animal. I've tried it. I've tried it at times. Our bull mastiff Diesel, he would run. He would go miles with me. Tugboat, he's a little bulkier, a little clumsier. So he likes to kind of run and then walk and sniff and then run and then walk and sniff. So it's a little more of a fartlek style interval workout when I take him out. So he's usually either my warm up or my cool down. I tack on my time with him before or after my daily mile. But I will tell you one thing, when I finish the daily mile, he is always waiting at the door for me. So he is hype man number one. He is ready for mom to get back. He's excited when she comes home because that probably means he's getting a treat.
Oh yeah, that's what he's worried about.
He's like, treat time.
Yeah.
Does he get to go to work with you ever?
We have a very, it's a very family-centric type of workplace. So there is a Take Your Dog to Work program. He has been at work with me. He's on probation because last time he escaped my office and took off running through the ticketing department because I headed to a meeting and I put him in my office and I thought it'd be fine because it was half hour. He's a little attached. He's kind of a mama's boy. And so they're like, hey, we just saw a Tugboat running through ticketing. And I was like, oh, God, I'm so fired, So I'll bring him back for sure. But yeah, I got to make sure it's at a time when I don't have any meetings that are going to take me away. It's a time, I need to do a half day. I can take him in from 9 to noon and then I'll take him home at lunch, I think. So one day is a little bit much.
He'll get back there
for him. Yeah. He's also he's kind of a piece of furniture. He's not fitting in tight quarters. So,
No.
Yeah. He's a little big.
Yeah.
For that.
Do the players ever get to meet the dogs, or do they bring their own?
I was walking him around actually, and it was funny. This was last year, and they're all they're also taken aback.
Yeah.
What do you see? He looks like the Beast from The Sandlot, right? So this is not exactly what you're expecting to see. There have been guys who have brought their dogs in at different points in time, when they've gotten puppies and different things. Kaylin has some of the sweetest dogs ever, and so Kaylin Jackson, she'll bring her dogs in. So it's not unusual that there are dogs around the building at various points in time. So.
I'm sure that's fun.
I love that.
Tugboat's just a little intrusive, right? So he doesn't have a lot of spatial awareness. So we have to be selective with when we can bring him over.
He's trying his best. He's trying.
He's
He just
really
wants to be
trying.
involved.
I love that.
He's a very sweet animal. Yes. Yeah.
A gentle giant.
He is so much that for sure. I should have brought him in here.
Yeah.
Oh my
you should-
gosh.
That's what we should have done.
That would
Next
have been
time.
so
Next time we'll
awesome.
bring
Yeah,
Tugboat.
perfect.
He can join.
Part
He could
two
sit. He
of the
can
podcast.
roam
be-
wherever in this room.
He would be attached. He'd be right next to you.
Oh, you
That's
could
fine.
get him the
Yeah,
whole
he's such a
time.
flirt.
That's
he
fine.
loves the gals. Yeah, all the time. He'd be smitten.
Taya would have the best time right
I would
there.
love that. Love dogs.
Yeah.
Like he
Yeah.
could just chill out in here.
He would. He would. You just have to watch out for the slobber. Yeah.
I'm used to it. My dogs at home do the exact
Same.
same
Really?
thing. They're
Same.
huge.
Okay. What type of dogs?
They're German Shorthair Pointers.
Oh, cute.
They're crazy.
Big but skinny.
They are. Well, the bigger ones, he's a little taller and thinner, and the other ones, he's a little chunky.
Oh, that's sweet.
They're cute though.
Yeah.
Yeah. The slobber.
It's
Is
real.
that a problem with your nice clothes? You got to keep them away.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
it is. Like sometimes I'm like, I'm like backing out the door, like, trying to like stiff arm him, away from
Yeah.
me. So we keep a lot of towels around.
No, yeah. Anytime I'm home, I just try not to bring nice clothes with
I
me
know.
because it's just gonna happen.
Yeah, it's inevitable. So yeah, luckily on game days I leave early enough that he goes back. He'll eat breakfast and he'll go back to sleep. So it's like I try to escape like before he knows I'm
Like,
leaving.
Gotta get out of here.
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Do you want to ask the final question?
No, you go for it.
I'll ask the final. We ask every guest this question. Who's your favorite female athlete and why?
Oh, this is such a loaded question. Favorite female athlete? Wow. Like I'm thinking about. Oh shoot! I mean, I'm thinking like obviously like track and field was such a big part. Like, but I also like loved gymnastics growing up too. Like Olympic junkie. Oh, I mean. Like, I think it's really hard for me to like go against Allison Felix is one who has been such a pioneer in so many ways. And I mean, the level of success that she has had, what she has done for women in sports and mothers in sports and becoming an advocate and a voice and doing all of what she is because now, she's no longer competing, but now she's like on the board for like the IOC and she has just been able to evolve and establish herself in so many different facets and be so influential for sports and use her platform for so many other people. And the other thing that I think can really easily be lost is like people forget that she was really one of the first teen track and field phenoms, and she turned pro out of high school, and she had such a level of pressure and expectation upon her. And, it's similar to what LeBron James, in basketball, she is kind of the equivalent in terms of females in track and field. And this level of success that she was able to sustain over such a period of time and do so, with such a level of expectation is just incredible. So the level of grace and poise and excellence and success that she has had, I think is just so admirable. And she is someone who I'm just constantly in awe of the way that she has carried herself with such longevity and such success over decades within the sport. And yeah, to me, she's just one of the best to ever do it. That's across sports, male or female.
She is. Is she the one who created the nursery this year? Was that her?
Yeah, she did help do that.
I
Yes.
did hear about that. Or she was like part of having the first nursery at the Olympic
Yes.
Village.
Oh, really?
Something like that. Yeah.
So yeah, she's now involved with like the Olympic Committee and some different things because she is such a powerful presence, such a powerful personality in sports in general. And yeah, she's incredible. She's developed her shoe line and just done all sorts of she's involved in so many variables within sports and honestly beyond sports at this point too.
That's so cool. Yeah. That's a good answer.
Great
right
answer.
there. That's
Thanks,
a good
guys.
one.
You put me on the spot there. See, I'm not used to
know.
being on this side, so I'm like, oh, I have to
She's
have
like, I
answers
didn't
for questions.
prep for this one.
Yeah,
No.
exactly. I'm supposed to be asking questions, not answering them. Now I know how everyone else feels.
I
Yeah.
swear it's always
Turn
that
the tables.
question too. They're like, "Oh, I didn't know you were gonna ask me
I
that."
know, and then they have to like think about it because there's so many
There
influential women.
is.
Yeah.
There's so many.
So many.
Yeah.
I feel like mine changes like every week. Every time we do this, I'm like,
How
I don't
cool
know.
is that though?
It's a
Like
new
how
person.
cool is that you have so many options? Like I mean, all the things running through. Like I loved like Shannon Miller, like as a gymnast, like when she was part of that iconic team of U.S. gymnastics, and then like Mia Hamm, and like that run of like women's soccer was incredible. I mean, it's just there's so many, which is awesome.
So
it's
many
a
in
great
every
space to be
sport.
in. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for
Yes,
joining
thank
us
you
today.
for
This has
being
been
here.
really awesome, and you brought a lot of great insight. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you
Really
all so
glad
much
to
for
have
having me.
Yeah,
you.
you were
It's been
awesome.
fun. Tell Tugboat we said hi.
Yes,
I will.
Tugboat looks so
I
cute.
promise to bring him next time.
Okay, deal.
Bye.